So, yeah, like your people, your tribe, the ones who are going to get it, the ones who are tapped in.
Yeah.
What do you want to communicate to them about anxiety?
About anxiety? That is a good thing. Not necessarily that it feels good, but the ability to feel anxiety is a blessing because there's somewhere that you should go in life and there's things that you should do in life. And when you're not doing those things, if there's something internal that's not gonna let you ignore that, that's good. You know, that's really good. So basically just have a different relationship with your anxiety, one that allows you to listen to it instead of avoid it and mask it and continue to not do the things that you're supposed to do.
But Stephen, so glad to have you here.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
No, for real, cool. I like doing this stuff. Thank you for doing this stuff with me. We're talking about your book and stuff like that, man. So, like we talked about before, tell me, what is your book about? First of all, what's the name of your book?
Book is The Gift of Anxiety, which is not the common perspective on anxiety, but I tried to argue in my book and try to paint a picture of how anxiety is actually beneficial to us, and that if having a different relationship or a different perspective on it would allow you to make some changes in your life that are necessary.
You're talking about painting a picture, and that makes me think specifically about like your book cover, because there's some imagery on it. So what does the book cover signify or represent?
Yeah, so the book cover is a man walking through the desert, right? And the common perspective or the concept of a desert is kind of like there is no direction, right? There's no clear-cut path, and that's kind of like a metaphor for life. There really isn't this like clear-cut path, but yet there definitely is, and it's just not like you visually don't see a path, right? But there is a correct way to go, right? And then there's this big, like almost ominous, dangerous red cloud, and that represents the anxiety. Now the man isn't at the ominous red cloud. He's just walking through the desert. Now, if he started to wander in the wrong direction of the desert, then he would be experiencing anxiety. So the anxiety on the cover is representing something that is meant to push you or to put you back on path if you happen to stumble off of it.
It's an image. Did you draw it, make it, commission someone? How did you make what was the process of making the cover?
So I used AI technology to make the cover, and so that was a process of just putting in prompts, trying to verbally communicate to DALL-E something I saw in my head, and through countless tries, it eventually created something that was pretty close to what I saw in my head, and it was very meaningful, you know? So
I just think that's interesting because I know you're really keen on communication, and communication is usually thought of personally or in between people. So the idea of communicating with this artificial intelligence, I think that's just an intriguing concept.
yeah.
What made you, in the end, or like ultimately what made you want to write this book?
Really, the reason I wrote this book is to develop my communication skills. Long term, I want to be a traveling speaker, and speakers should have good things to say. So this is the process of learning how to think in a way that communicates to an audience at large. So this is one step that is getting me closer to where I want to be, which is traveling and speaking.
When you're talking about communicating to an audience at large, or thinking about audiences and communicating, what do you want to communicate to your audience about either this book or just anxiety in general?
Yeah. So there's things in life that we should be doing, and there's things that we want to do, right? And that's good. Like that's life. Life has meaning. Life is meaningful, right? And so as life goes by, there's a lot of things that distract us from engaging with the meaning of our life and the things that we want to do. You know, a lot of times we're living out other people's dreams and what other people want for us, right? So when we're avoiding doing the little things or even thinking about the bigger things, we're going to be experiencing discomfort because we're not aligned with being on the path, going to the place that we're supposed to be. So I really hope when people read this book that it reminds them that there is stuff that they want to do in life, and that there's stuff that they need to do in life, and that there's something inside of them that's not going to allow them to forget that.
We're talking about anxiety, but how do you define anxiety? How do you term it?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, like it's interesting. The more I wrote, the less I understood about anxiety, and what I came to notice is that anxiety is so. I interviewed a lot of people about anxiety, and like it's so different for different people. Like what one person would call depression, another person calls anxiety, and what one person calls anxiety, another person calls depression, and like it's discomfort. And it's discomfort that we don't understand, and that's why it's hard for me to even understand it, because it's confusing by nature, you know. And I think it's confusing because a lot of people don't view it as attached to something that they desire or attached to something that they want in life, you know. So it just seems like this random intrusive discomfort, but it's not. You know, it's arriving for a reason. And if we were able to like sit with it, we would understand that more. And the reason I can't really define it is because it's different for different people, because different people are experiencing it for a wide variety of different reasons, right? So simply put, it's just discomfort.
When, this is not scripted, but when was the last time you were uncomfortable, or when was the last time you were uncomfortable in that situation? You resolved, or you found a resolution. And I say uncomfortable, but we're talking about anxiety. So either, if you want to share what's got you anxious now, or if you want to share what was a time or a thing that you were really anxious about and you made it through.
Yeah, so right now there is a relationship in my life that I'm uncertain about. And that uncertainty causes a lot of discomfort in me, but because I am kind of like really invested into kind of seeing this through, is something that like I know I'm just going to feel. Like I'm feeling this discomfort, but it's attached to my investment into something that's not resolved yet. So I know once there is resolution, then that anxiety will subside. Right? But that anxiety is reminding me of something that's important to me, you know, which is this relationship. Like there was a time when, I was living at my mother's, and I was really upset because the dishes was crazy, right? And like I was avoiding doing the dishes. And then I would like even convince myself like, yo, go do the dishes. So I walk downstairs, I go into the kitchen, I'll be like, man, these people are like, it's just bad in here, right? And then I would walk upstairs and I'm like sitting there like, I know I just need to do the dishes. I couldn't do anything else because the dishes weren't done, but it was like chaos in there. So I eventually just was like, I gotta do this, bro. So like put on my big boy shoes, went downstairs, put on some gloves, and I was so uncomfortable for like the first 15 minutes. Like I even was like cussing under my breath. I kept going outside like angry, and I would go back. And as soon as I got the last dish done, I was like, I feel really calm right now. And it's interesting that it's like, it can be the smallest things, but like those dishes needed to be done. And my internal, you can call it consciousness, you can call it God, whatever was inside of me, not letting me not take responsibility of what I need to take responsibility for. So
from now on, from time to time, we'll ask each other if we are, or we'll challenge each other to wash the dishes. Because I think you said something like that's simple and easy to look over, but it is as simple as just doing the dishes. And the dishes are the little things that you can do that allow you to look at whatever is in front of you in a way that is not anxious, because you know that you're doing everything that you can do.
Huh.
I mean, that resonates with me, but it's, you know, you said it, it's different to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sure there's an anxiety that I haven't experienced that I can't really speak to.
Yeah, I think, and I think people walk around with a lot of anxiety without even knowing it, and they've been walking around with it for so long, they're just like, oh, this is kind of like life with a lightly tinted gray to it. Like life just has this light tint gray to it. And you know, oftentimes, you know, maybe they finally confront this thing, like they finally pay this bill, or they finally clean out that drawer, and they didn't even realize that this has been bothering them at some level of the unconscious, right? Mm-hmm. I used to tell my friend, because she would always be anxious, right? And her socks was crazy in her room, bro. Her socks was just crazy, and she was always like had these grand schemes of how to like take over the world, right? And she's so brilliant, but like I was like, you can't take over the world till you fold your socks, you know? And like I think at some level, you know, people will run around trying to like do what you call the sexy stuff, you know, when they're not handling the unsexy stuff, like folding the socks, doing the dishes, you know, paying a bill, or like, you know, all the little tiny stuff that becomes like little ants that finally eat away at the tree, and then, you know,
call it anxiety.
That's fire, bro.
Hey man, I think all that stuff's cool. I have a vision in my mind where I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to send the second half to you. Those 2 questions you weren't ready for, they're also a little more personal than the other 2. If you want to share them, cool. I'll leave that up to you. I'll chop up the first half. I'm thinking, of course, giving them to you so you can have the assets. I'll put them on my YouTube. I think you have a YouTube. Put it on there as well. I don't think we can partner. As far as social media goes, on Instagram, let's leverage each other's audiences and as well as skills. So I feel comfortable taking the lead on posting the snippets on Instagram. But again, like I said, I'll pass you the content so you can do so however else you want to.
Yeah.
Sunday is when I feel I can get these to you.
Okay.
Sunday also reminds me about you being here on Sunday from 2 to 4.
2 to 4.
You still want to do that?
Yeah, I'm good. 2 to 4.
I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to start, and we're going to just